Welcome to the Resilient Minds podcast, stories of grit, growth, and success, where we dive deep into the journey of successful leaders who've struggled and succeeded. Before the wins, before the titles, what was the mindset behind the leader? On this show, we focus on real stories behind the success, the struggles, the resilience, and the courage it takes to keep moving forward, even when times get tough. My goal is to provide you with stories of hope and transformation, showing that no matter the challenges, there is a way forward. On this show, we'll be meeting with highly successful leaders who've battled through obstacles, emerging stronger and wiser on the other side. This show is for anyone who wants to grow, evolve, and find the light at the end of the tunnel. Everyone's a leader, so together, we'll uncover what it truly means to evolve as leaders, and ultimately, as human beings. This is Resilient Minds. Hi, I'm your host, Dr. Campbell, and I'm here with Morin, and he is the Director of Creative at Working Writers Co. They are from Canada, and they sound so amazing. Most of us creative people, highly sensitive people, we're visionaries. We want to tell a story, but sometimes we just kind of go off in different directions. We need people like them to help us and coach us how to write our story in a cohesive narrative to make it so that it can be a bestseller. Alex, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jacqueline. I'm excited to be here. And having been in your environment a couple of times, I'm excited to engage with you and have some philosophical discussions and really get into some cool stuff today.
Me too. I love how you said philosophical because it seems like that's where it ends up going for, most of us creative people. Do you have a lot of
Sure.
those conversations with the people you work with?
I do. Yeah, I would say the majority of my conversations with people are philosophical in nature. As a book coach, you're working with people who are using their creativity on the daily. And so that involves brainstorming, that involves, planning and oftentimes when we're brainstorming around a story, we're getting philosophical about, let's get further into this. Let's explore the root of this. Why did that character act in this way? Why is that character acting in that way? So, yes, I would say quite often and in family as well, I would say a lot of my conversations are philosophical with my wife, with my kids. I've got two adult kids, and I've got a 10-year-old as well who's almost 11. And yeah, we engage in tons of philosophy.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Yeah, yeah.
My 12-year-old and I, we tend to get very creative with our philosophical conversations. If the older teen boy is not there, because he's more rough, he's more assertive, he plays football, those types of things. And so
Yeah,
completely different conversation when you get creative people together, right? How long
without
have you
question.
been doing this? Because you coach people to get more in depth into their story, and to me, it sounds like you bring it out of them, right, to be able to
Hmm.
put it into their bestseller. How long have
Yeah,
you
yeah,
been doing
correct. So this incarnation, so Working Writers Co. has existed for about 4.5 years now. It started just after 2020. But I guess you could say that I've been doing this kind of work almost my whole life. I was in corporate for 19 years. And I had wore various hats in the corporation that I was a part of. And one of those hats was marketing, sales. And in sales, you're coaxing stories out of people. You're coaching
it?
them on how to deliver a narrative and make it interesting and compelling and magnetic. And
Right.
so, I guess when you ask how long have I been doing this for, a long time. And then prior to that, with a university education in English literature, I was studying the art of the story for a long time.
Right.
But in this incarnation with Working Writers Co., it's been about 4.5 years now, where we really focused, built this company around helping people share their stories, whether fiction or nonfiction, and coaching them on how to do that effectively and make it, as you say, a bestseller, something that really resonates and attracts people.
Well, normally authenticity resonates and really deep emotional work too, like transformation. Everybody loves a good story, right? But there's always that dip, so I bet,
Yes.
and I had like 15 years as a therapist in the mental health field before I came into coaching. And so like you guys, and the more creative people I talk to in the business world, whether it be business in mindset or strategy, or like you're talking about creative writing, you're talking about pulling the creativity and the transformation out of somebody, tapping into their potential, but you have to go through wounds
Yeah.
sometimes together because you're blocking it. What do you guys do when you come up to wounds when you're trying to dig out the story?
That's such a juicy question.
Right, very
And
loaded, right?
yeah, and I'm happy to answer that because it's something that comes up frequently. And let's break that down in a couple of ways right now. So what you're really talking about here is the vulnerability that's required in order to develop a character who's authentic enough that that character resonates and pulls people in. And
Yeah.
so that would seemingly be a lot easier to do in memoir, right? Because you're dealing with yourself and you're like, well, I know this character, right?
Yeah.
So one would think that's the place where you're really going to see that authenticity shine and that vulnerability. But oftentimes that's a challenging nut to crack for people. And so what happens quite often in our line of work is that somebody approaches us and says, I would like to share my story. I would like to write a memoir. And we say, fabulous. What's this memoir going to be about? Because a memoir isn't the story of your life. A memoir is the story of a particular story of your life, right? The book would be too long if you were to write your entire life. So when you discover what that story is, you say, excellent, let's outline that now. And so we begin to outline it, and the writer goes away and they begin to write. And oftentimes they come back and we see the story and we say, we're scratching the surface here. Tell me what's behind this action. Tell me what you were thinking and feeling when this circumstance occurred.
Mm,
And now you hit that wall sometimes with an author.
right.
And that wall is the inability to actually go further and deeper and actually discuss what it is that we are fearful of, what it is that really ignites our emotions. And so part of the work that I do as a book coach is really creating a space that's safe enough where people will explore that one-on-one or with my business partner, Marcy Barbaro, and I. So oftentimes there's three of us in a Zoom room like this. And we will encourage the writer in this safe spot to really delve into what's behind the story they're writing. And so, what happens a lot of times, Jacqueline, is that people end up writing a different book than the book they set out to write. And
Yep,
that's
I bet.
because through the process, they're opening up and they're revealing, who they really are and the emotionality that perhaps they never thought they were going to put on paper. But the more they do that, and the more we encourage them, and the more they bring those creative pieces of writing to class and share it with their fellow students, the more they realize, holy smokes, my writing is hitting. And so that is something that's developed through the art of the memoir, but it's equally as important when you're developing fictional characters as well. Because if you think about it for a second, every fictional character has to be based on your knowledge, the author's knowledge of human nature. And so where do we get that from? We get that either from ourselves, right? Oh, I'm going to model this character's jealousy over something that I have been jealous about in the past, or I'm going to model their happiness around my sense of optimism, or I'm going to model this character on something I've seen in a friend, a family member, a character on TV. That sadistic behavior. I don't know it personally, but I'm going to explore it. And so the art of writing is really an interesting art in the sense that we get to explore different facets of humanity through our hard work, through our really deep work. And that's part of the joy of what I do is really getting is the gift of being able to be in that space with people and explore with them. So there's not a writer I work with where I'm not learning or I'm not discovering something about humanity, about myself, or about the person I'm working with. It's a real gift. It's a real honor to do what I do.
That's beautiful. And I can totally resonate with what you're talking about, where you're working with somebody and they're bringing something up. They're digging into the subconscious because we have our conscious intention and then we have the subconscious. And that's how it ends up being a completely different book. But then we mirror each other. And this is happening constantly throughout the day at the store with people you work with, your spouses, your kids, where they're mirroring us. So if we're paying attention, we can learn just as much about ourselves. So during this work, and maybe you'll just even have to tell me too, like, did you end up having to do this work on yourself so that you can write your own book as well?
Big time.
Yeah, I
Big
get
time.
it.
The only way that you can have those types of really vulnerable, open conversations with people is if you're willing to do the same with yourself, if you're willing to be open and vulnerable. And so my story really begins in 2020. And in 2020, we were sitting around a dining room table at night on a beautiful summer evening when my daughter, who would have been 18 at the time, got a text message indicating that our son, who would have been 16 at the time, was jumped. And that's a frightening email or a frightening text message to get, right? So we're sitting at the table playing cards, myself, my wife, my daughter, and her boyfriend. And all of a sudden, our daughter shrieks, Brady's been jumped. And, that contraction, Brady's being jumped. So it's like three words with a contraction there. Those words are so powerful, right? To anyone, especially a parent and your own child. And so in that moment, I was like, oh shit. And I could see the panic in my daughter's voice. And, the first question was, where, what, like, what, like more info. I need more info. And we were given the info very quickly. It happened at this park, which was just minutes from my place. And so I hopped into my car. My daughter and her boyfriend insisted on coming. And I walked into a scene right out of a movie with the flashing lights everywhere. And dusk had already happened. And so it was a darker setting. And fire trucks were there and police cars were there. And I cut through the noise and I cut right across the field and honed in on a police officer. And I looked the police officer in the eye and I said, "I'm the dad. Where's my son?" And it's fascinating, these moments that are pure truth. There was no need for that officer to say, "Who are you?" And like, "Can you show me some like I'm not giving away information." But that those moments of truth are very important. Anyways, I'm going to shorten the story for you because we could do this all day. But the short of it is that the police officer said your son's on the way to Sunnybrook Hospital, which is the trauma center in Toronto, not the local hospital where all of our kids were born, fantastic hospital, but the trauma center, and he's been stabbed. And I'm like, oh fuck, all right, that's really bad. And so in that moment, that's the big reveal. And this changes the entire course of my life because when I discover through the surgeon at the hospital that my son's going to live and things will be okay, it's the height of COVID. No one's allowed in the hospitals. And so I've got this space and this time to be there at the hospital in the courtyard. And I decide that evening when I got the news that he would survive, that I would quit my corporate job. And I remember calling my wife and saying, "Oh, I'm done. I'm gonna resign tomorrow." And she was like, "Wow, okay, all right, wow." And this was a 19-year career, a career that I had worked up from the bottom to become a shareholder in a pretty big company. And I had fulfilled my dream, really going as far as I could go in this company. And Brady's stabbing changed everything. I knew at that moment that I wanted to change a lot of things about my life. So Brady's stabbing was the door that opened. Was an opportunity to now leave this corporation. And so initially you had asked me, Alex, like, do you have to be vulnerable? Like, is there something that you had to face in order to help people share their stories? And the answer is yes. That single incident allowed me to leave the corporate world where I was unhappy, where I was living inauthentically, where I was betraying people, including myself. And it was a road to get to where I am today. It was certainly a road, and there were certainly many milestones along the way that allow me to do what I do today and allow me to be able to have these types of open, honest, vulnerable conversations. And a couple of milestones along the way that stand out would be that number one, quitting my job. That was big. I had wanted to do it for years. I didn't have the guts to do it. I didn't have the courage to do it, but this presented an opportunity to do it, and I took it. And the next one was to begin businesses that were heart-based. And so I had this idea in my mind that I want to start businesses and I want them all to be heart-based,
Yeah.
whatever that meant. And I didn't even know what it meant. I just had a feeling like this is what I have to do. And I did that. And when you engage in heart-based business, everything has to fall in place. Everything has to align, right? And so the next major milestone for me was part of the reason I wanted to leave that corporation was I had mentioned to you just a couple of seconds ago that I was being inauthentic.
Right.
And that inauthenticity was I was unfaithful to my wife in that position. And so this was my next big milestone was I need to come clean. I need to be honest. I need to live a truthful life and live in alignment with this idea of opening heart-based businesses. And you can't open a heart-based business, and you can't have a heart-based podcast, and you can't be heart-based if you've got part of your heart locked away.
Right.
And I certainly did. And so that took some time, and eventually I revealed that story to my wife, and I left the door open to whatever would come of that, whether she would walk away, whether we would reconcile, whether we would work on it. And fortunately for me, and I guess for her as well, because we love where we're at today, she chose to work with me. And in working together, I have found a love that is so fulfilling and so beyond the idea that I even knew love could be.
Yeah.
And and the consequence of that, the consequence of love, the consequence of an open heart is creativity, is
Absolutely.
alignment, is movement in the right direction, is opportunity. Like all of these things now just they materialize. And I feel like this path is just like the right path. No matter what happens, I'm like, okay, perfect. Like I'll take that. I'll take that. And I'll take it, gracefully and happily and sometimes um with a lot of water. But it all feels fabulous, Jacqueline. So I know that's a long way of answering that question, but what has primed me to be able to have these conversations with authors today is the ability to open my heart, to be honest with myself, to be honest with those around me and in society, and call it the way it is, and really get the most out of this life now and feel it. I feel it more than I've ever felt it before. It's a pretty unbelievable feeling.
I love that you emphasize how much you feel it because if you've never been in alignment, when you're out of alignment, you have no idea. Things
Yeah.
hurt. There's so much attachment to things that they create so much trauma. We aren't in a place where we can shift the mindset to see it from a bigger perspective to naturally heal the trauma because it can move through us instead of getting stuck inside of us. But then it halts our life. And it seems like
Yeah.
things are crumbling, they're chaotic. I don't feel good. Mental health symptoms happen. More relationship dynamic issues happen. Like a lot more problems are created because the alignment was never there in the first place. So when
Yes, I hear you.
you get in alignment, everything, work, relationships, habits, hobbies, thoughts, characteristics, everything, it's congruent because it's actually in alignment. So that's what makes everything easier, but not because life doesn't happen. It's because perspectives shift.
Hmm.
So then we detach from things that aren't for us. So the things that are for us, that are in alignment, they can stay longer, which then
Yes.
just naturally creates peace. So to me, that,
Yes.
that seems like that's the main way that you were able to shift yourself. And I'm sure you had a huge impact on your family by shifting your mindset. I'm done. I'm not going to be this other version of myself. I'm going to be authentic. It's going to be hard. That's okay. Let me move forward. And then your family was able to move with you. How was it for them?
Yeah, that's entirely accurate. How has it been for my family? Well, it's been delightful. You talk about alignment and those things falling into place,
Mm.
and I see it the same way you do, and I'll use a little bit of a different language. We have infinite energy. We can tap into infinite energy, I believe, and we can direct that energy. And when we direct it in places that aren't aligned, then as you say, we are not using that energy where it's best suited, right? And so now that energy that I was spending doing things that didn't serve me has been erased. That's like, okay, we've taken that vacuum where you were using all this energy and funneling it over there.
Yeah.
I've got these stores of energy now. Like they're just enormous. And with that energy, where I look, and what I see so much more than I see, and I see my kids more than I've ever seen them before, and I see my wife in a way that I haven't seen her before. And so this allows for fascinating conversation to evolve. This allows for the unpredictable and the unimagined to happen, and for just wonderful interactions to occur. So, my short answer to you is undoubtedly within my whole family, things have shifted. Just the other day, my son was telling me how my youngest son was telling me how happy I am. And yeah, he's not wrong. I find myself gleeful and joyful on most days. I'm really, really happy with life.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. And I'm sure that it assists your whole family with that shift because you're happy too. Because and I say this a lot to whether it be in coaching or in therapy, but just generally, like if people understood the impact that we have on our kids, it's like an emotional umbilical cord. They're in your sphere, they're around you. So if you regulate, if you shift your mindset, if you find alignment, it naturally is inherited by them. You don't even have to try to push and force, which usually parenting that we get scared and we parent out of fear. We can parent out of alignment and they naturally gravitate with us. Can I ask you a quick question? It
Mhm.
was your older son, right, who had gotten jumped, correct?
Yeah,
How old was he when that happened?
he was 16. He's 21 now.
Yes. How is he now?
He's well, thanks for asking. Brady's a gem. He's my oldest boy, and yeah, Brady is a gem. He always marched to the beat of his own drum. Part of the reason that he was jumped is because he had been defending a child who was being harassed in a skate park weeks beforehand.
Mhm.
And our son had found out who was harassing this young child, much, much younger than the person who was harassing him. And he sent a text message to this person indicating that, hey, I'm aware that you're harassing this person. Please leave him alone.
Wow.
And that interaction sparked the ire of this particular person who then took it upon themselves to jump our son. Um, so I wanted to give you that little bit of background because Brady's always been different. School has never resonated for him. It's not been interesting to him in the least. And you're laughing because I guess you can relate.
I
You've got two
totally
kids,
get
I
that.
know.
Right.
Yeah,
The most
yeah,
creative people, school is not for them. It's too rigid.
yeah,
You have to be
constrictive for
authentic.
sure. Yeah. And like we could get into a whole conversation about that. I feel like the curriculum doesn't serve kids these days largely. So anyways, I wanted to give you that background information because I always knew that Brady would be just fine. He's brilliant, he's empathetic, he's compassionate, he's a beautiful soul, and he's young and he's figuring things out and he's 21 today. And so Brady I don't even know if he ever finished his high school. I don't think he did. But he's gone into the automotive sector now. And where he's working, they absolutely love him. And in a massive organization, he won Employee of the Month the other month. And it was zero surprise to me whatsoever. I mean, he's an awesome soul, and he is interested and passionate when he is into something that makes sense to him. And I think he's got a good support network there and a good boss who nurtures him. And so when you ask how he's doing, Brady's got all kinds of plans. We live in Toronto, and he's planning on moving out to BC. I'm from British Columbia originally. There's tons of mountains there, and Brady is a phenomenal snowboarder and just a
Wow.
terrific athlete. And so I'm not too sure what work is going to look like for Brady, but I have a feeling that he's going to fulfill that dream, and him and his girlfriend are going to move out west, and he'll live somewhere in the mountains. And I have a feeling that with his ingenuity and his originality, I think he'll do something unique, and it will be his own thing, and he will succeed to the degree that he wants to succeed. So,
Yeah.
thank you for asking the question. He's doing very well. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think the most creative people who demand to be authentic, they don't
Mm,
suppress that, right? Their creativity just opens up and it expands. If they are, dancing to the beat of their own drum, like you said about your son, no matter what they do in life, they're going to be successful because they're bringing something unique to the world and they're demanding that it be heard and seen. And I think I call it the I am energy. Like we all resonate with something specific. And so as long as we're able to let that shine, then that's what we're contributing to the world. So of course he's gonna be amazing.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier, the impact that we have on family, and
Mhm.
you mentioned the words umbilical cord, like we're connected to our family, and I very much identify with that. I have a saying that we're all Bluetooth units, all of us on the planet,
Yeah.
and by virtue of proximity, we are in the same way that a Bluetooth device will work in proximity to a speaker. Say, you walk away, and then you start to hear that crackling. Oh, I'm just out of range, right?
Mhm.
And out of range means I'm out of contact with somebody. But those in our family, I believe, like we are connected so intimately through that Bluetooth connection, I'll call it, that the truth is felt all the time. So if I'm in a conversation with my son, if I'm in a conversation with my wife or my daughter or either of my sons, um, there's no escaping the truth.
Right.
And I will say that that's happening at the moment with me and you. I would say that when we connect authentically and when we're truly focused on one another, energy to energy, that Bluetooth device is working, and you are in touch with my core, and I am in touch with your core. So I can say all kinds of fancy words, but you really, really know the real me when we focus on one another. And I think that's happening at this particular moment, and that happens, primarily with our children because we're so close to our children and so close to our partners when we're in healthy relationships. And so it's been a real revelation over the last 5 years to be able to enjoy the fruits of that truth with not only my family but people in general. When I authentically connect with people, to
Mhm.
feel that truth is marvelous. It's a real gift. It's a real unbelievable thing to have.
Absolutely. So, really quick, before we have to end, I'd like to ask you if you were to talk directly to somebody who has not stepped into their authentic self yet, they're still scared of truth, right? And the most
Mhm,
scary truth when we're in that space is to see us fully,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
Whether that be good, bad, ugly, it doesn't matter. What would you like to tell them?
Hmm. Maybe it's a counterintuitive answer, but I don't know that there's anything I could tell them. I'm gonna explain that answer a little bit. We're the only ones capable of making the change in ourselves. We're the only ones. You can't make me change, but you can create an environment in which I see myself and I might want to make a change. And so the only thing I can do is continue to be the best version of myself wherever I show up and whatever I do, in whatever I do.
Mhm.
And I don't know the reason or reasons we do the things we do, and the reason or reasons that we are blocked from seeing our authentic selves. Because my belief is that the majority of humans on the planet don't truly see themselves. The truth is obfuscated through so many different things. And, we could sit here right now, we could pick on like 10 different things, and we could talk about social media, we could talk about manipulation, we could talk about societal control, we could talk about all kinds of things. And I don't think there's any one reason that blocks us from being authentic and seeing ourselves. I think it is a dynamic, a multitude of ever shifting things that are preventing us from doing that. But there will come a time in your life, I believe, yes, there will come a time in each of our lives when we have a moment in which we are vulnerable and open and so alive that you see yourself wholly and fully. And it is up to us to seize that moment, to feel it so intimately. And it's conversations like these that people will listen to and hear that might just plant a seed. And they might remember that one comment that there will indeed come a time in your life where you will see that truth, and it might be fleeting. And you might remember Alex and Jacqueline talking about this, and that might be the moment where you go, shit, I think I'm ready.
Yeah.
I think I'm ready to do something that comes from my heart.
Mm.
And when you make that one move, as I did in quitting my job, bing, the next one happens, bing, the next one
Right.
happens, bing, the next one happens. And just like a set of locks that all of a sudden go click, 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 click,
Yep.
that's what happens. And so that's my answer is I don't think I can coach anyone to change. I don't think I can say anything impactful that will make you change.
Yeah.
But my openness and my honest assessment of what life is about and what I'm feeling in this life, maybe that's enough for you to see something in your life that makes you say, I'm doing something different today. And that's pretty cool.
It is because we all have the power of choice, but it just depends on when. And
Yeah.
you don't have to choose it now. You can choose it whenever you're ready. So how do people get a hold of you?
You can find us on our website, www.workingwritersco.com. And if you wanted to get a hold of me, you could email me at alex@workingwritersco.com. Those are two great ways. And you can find us on Instagram at Working Writers Co. Um, I'm also on LinkedIn. That's a place that I'm on fairly routinely. And
Awesome.
those are all good places to connect with me.
Perfect. And we're gonna have your content, your links in the description of the video, anyways, to make sure that people can get a hold of you. But I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for your authenticity and what you're doing in the world. It's really needed.
Well, Dr. Jacqueline, thank you for having me on your program today and for having the space that allows us to have this real authentic, honest conversation. You are marvelous at creating that space. I felt open today. I felt like there were no bounds to wherever we could go. And I appreciate your contributions. And I just find the whole dynamic today was wonderful. Thank you for this opportunity.
I appreciate it. I appreciate your time. Bye.
See
Thank you so much for joining. Your time and your focus are your most valuable currencies, so thank you for giving that to us today. Our guest contact information will be in the description below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. But please, if you know someone who's struggling, stop right now and send this video to them. The struggle behind growth and success is real, and they need the support to make it, because the strongest minds are the ones that healed. So don't forget, lead louder, feel deeper, and stay resilient. Until next time, this is your host, Dr. Campbell, on the Resilient Minds podcast.